Thank you so much for attending this training workshop, everyone. Somebody, did you have something to say?
Yes, before we start, because we don't have a lot of people, so I'm wondering if in terms of translation wise, we should do it, or how many of them are comfortable listening to the
just to English?
To
Yeah.
Or
អ្នកទាំងអស់គ្នាចាអ្នកទាំងអស់គ្នាអាចស្ដាប់ភាសាអង់គ្លេសបានអត់ទេឬក៏ការត្រូវការការបកប្រែភាសាខ្មែរជាទូទៅមកគឺ trainer គាត់បរៀនមួយ slide គាត់អាចឲ្យអ្នកបកប្រែគាត់បកប្រែម្ដងអញ្ចឹងសាមឌីហើយនិងសុធាវីគាត់នឹងជួយនៅក្នុងការបកប្រែពីភាសាអង់គ្លេសទៅភាសាខ្មែរឬក៏អាចទៅភាសាអង់គ្លេសទាំងអស់តែម្ដងហើយខ្ញុំចូលជួយពេលដែលគិតថាវាចាំបាច់មិនដែរភាសាគ្នាយើងតិចហើយបើធ្វើអញ្ចឹងអាច save time មកចាហើយរាល់ពេលដែលគាត់កំពុងតែធ្វើបទបង្ហាញហ្នឹងបើអ្នកទាំងអស់គ្នាមានសំណួរអាចដាក់នៅក្នុង chat box ឬក៏ត្រូវការបកប្រែអត់ច្បាស់កន្លែងណាអាចលើកដៃ so everyone is okay both is can okay Visna maybe need some translation okay maybe somebody can summary just after one slide and do one summary and then everyone can ask the question or two.
Yeah, the only problem is we're gonna go on to the PowerPoint for a second, but we're pretty much gonna work in the editing program. So yeah. I think what you could do, somebody, is also reply or do like a summary, directly replying to how do you say your name, Visna?
Visna.
Yeah, maybe you can maybe he or she has any questions, you can kind of like add the translation in the chat box to kind of help out, and then yeah, I can also pause too, and then or if you want me to repeat something and have somebody translate, you can also just kind of like hit her up and ask her to translate really quick, and then I'll just pause.
Yeah, and អញ្ចឹងអ្នកទាំងអស់គ្នាអាចសរសេរសំណួរនៅក្នុង chat ពួកខ្ញុំនឹងព្យាយាមឆ្លើយតបទៅអ្នកទាំងអស់គ្នាវិញហើយពួកខ្ញុំនឹងធ្វើការបកប្រែនៅក្នុងដោយសារឥឡូវខ្ញុំសូមសួរអ្នកទាំងអស់គ្នាវិញថាអ្នកទាំងអស់គ្នាបាន download program ទាំងពីរដែល D គាត់បានឬក៏ក្រុមការងារខ្ញុំបានផ្ញើ email ទៅនៅគឺ DaVinci Resolve ហើយនិង Adobe Rush ព្រោះថាបន្តិចទៀតគឺយើងនឹងប្រើ program ទាំងពីរហ្នឹងដើម្បី go through មានអ្នកណាអត់ទាន់បាន download ទេសូមជួយបាទលើកដៃឬក៏ប្រាប់តិចមកវណ្ដាអត់ទាន់បាន download ទេអូខេចឹងអាចចាប់ផ្ដើម download បដាឬមួយក៏អាចមើល D ហើយមានចម្ងល់អីអាចសាកសួរបានអូខេ D you can start.
Let me know when I have to go. Okay, well, thanks everyone for joining. My name is Dee Tao. I am a videographer, photographer. I also do graphic design for fisheries conservation, research, conservation, and monitoring company called Fish Bio. We're based in California at 3 different offices in California. And then we also have a office in Lao PDR. So we work also in Southeast Asia. And of course, we work with the Wonders of the Mekong project on various, various projects within the project. I also do a lot of editing for Wonders of the Mekong and do a lot of consulting with our other editor, Chuchina. If you've probably seen his videos on our Wonders of the Mekong Facebook page. So between the 2 of us and one other editor, Stefan Lovgren, which seems like most of you guys are planning to take his training video about video storytelling. And he's a National Geographic filmmaker, journalist. And so hopefully you guys get a chance to see him, get some tips from him. Today we will, and actually I wanted to quickly share in the chat 2 links, one to our Fish Bio channel where you can see examples of a lot of the work that I do. I mainly edit documentary style videos, so nonfiction videos with interviews and lots of B-rolls and traveling to different locations to tell stories. So you'll see examples of those. And we also at Fishbowl, we do a lot of fabrication on equipment for studying fish. And so I also create a lot of corporate videos on fisheries research equipment and also the studies that we conduct here in California and in Lao PDR. For Wonders of the Mekong, I also added the link for, oh, sorry, somebody. I also added the link to Wonders of the Mekong channel. A lot of the videos we have on that channel is also on our Facebook page, but then you can kind of see the type of videos we make. Most of them, again, are fictional videos based on real stories and real people. And so as an editor, sometimes it is a little bit difficult to work with footage of actual non-fictional kind of footage, interviews, and working with people. So hopefully I'll get a chance to kind of talk about my workflow today. If not, we'll try to do that on the second day. We'll start and go over DaVinci Resolve first, and then some editing tips, workflow, and then we'll go into Adobe Rush at the end, which is, we'll just highlight basically the application of Adobe Rush and how you can start editing on your phone and your mobile. It seems like a lot of you guys are also attending Stefan's training, and this is a good complementary to his training. I believe he's going to have 2 workshops, and he'll really work with you on the story. And today I'm really working kind of with you on the technical feature of video editing, the programs, and then a few editing techniques. So, well, let me share my PowerPoint and let's get started.
Let me recap a bit. Let me recap a bit in Khmer, just in case.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Đi còn vậy riêng quen thì chơi hay đời xa bộ dương kết tham 300 bỏ para hay nè từng organize đập bàn tại nhóm còn trong sân khai tại được còn vậy tình trạng á đi quật thưa ca oiក្រុមហ៊ុន Fish Bio ដែលមាន office នៅ California ហើយនិងនៅឡាវប៉ុន្តែ Fish Bio គឺជាដៃគូសហការដ៏រមួតរបស់គម្រោង Wonder of the Mekong អញ្ចឹងយើងធ្វើការជាមួយគ្នាហើយđi គាត់កាត់តវីដេអូជាច្រើនដែលអ្នកទាំងអស់គ្នាបានឃើញនៅលើ Facebook page ឬក៏ YouTube របស់ Wonder of the Mekong ហ្នឹងអញ្ចឹងយើងមានអ្នកដែលធ្វើការទាក់ទងនឹងវីដេអូនឹងផ្សេងទៀតដូចជាបងប្រុសគាត់ឈ្មោះ Jenna ដែលជាទូទៅគាត់គូរូបគូអីនៅលើ Facebook page ហ្នឹងហើយ Stefan Green ប្រហែលជាអ្នកទាំងអស់គ្នាបានចុះឈ្មោះចូលរៀនវគ្គបណ្ដុះបណ្ដាលគាត់ដែលនឹងកើតឡើងនៅខែ11ហ្នឹងអញ្ចឹងtraining ដែលđiធ្វើថ្ងៃនេះហើយនឹងថ្ងៃស្អែកវាជាមួយ training ដែល Stefan នឹងធ្វើខែ11វា complement គ្នាបានន័យថាយើងបើសិនជាយើងបានរៀនទាំងពីរបាទយើងចេះរឹតតែច្រើនបូកបញ្ចូលគ្នាអញ្ចឹងណាហើយគាត់ជាទូទៅគាត់ធ្វើភាគច្រើនគឺ documentary វីដេអូអញ្ចឹងដោយគាត់និយាយអញ្ចឹងវាមានកន្លែងពិបាកខ្លះដោយសារតែយើងគឺយើងថតផ្ទាល់យើងសម្ភាសផ្ទាល់វាមិនមែនជារឿងការសម្ដែងការ set up អីទេអញ្ចឹងហ្នឹងហើយគឺជារឿងពិបាកនៅក្នុងការធ្វើ documentary ហើយព្រឹកនេះឌីគាត់នឹងមើលទៅលើ software ការ editing tip មួយចំនួនសម្រាប់ទាំងអស់គ្នាហើយគាត់ប្រើ DaVinci Resolve ហ្នឹងហើយនឹង Adobe Rush ប៉ុន្តែ Adobe Rush ហ្នឹងផ្អែមព្រឹកហ្នឹង dedicate ទៅ DaVinci Resolve ហ្នឹងច្រើនជាង Adobe Rush yeah, please start.
Okay, great. So just so you guys know, I have another screen over here, so I'm like looking at both screens. So if I'm looking over here, I'm just looking at my PowerPoint. To start with, there is a lot of different software for video editing, like especially right now with video right now is really a big thing, with TikTok and Instagram videos and all that. So there's a lot of different software for you to be able to start editing your own stories and your own videos. There's free versions, of course. DaVinci Resolve is the one that we had you download is a free version of their studio program software. For Mac, there is iMovie, which Elizabeth was talking about. She uses that one. And then for PCs, there's also Windows Media Maker. And I really liked DaVinci Resolve because it's very similar to the editing program that I use, which is Premiere Pro, Adobe Premiere Pro. And that's a paid editing software through Adobe, the brand. And then there's for video editing, there's also, desktop video editing. There's also Final Cut and Avid, and these are pretty much industry standard video editing programs that a lot of professionals use. For mobile, today we're going to be talking about Adobe Rush, which is a free program, also through Adobe. And then there's also LumaFusion, which is a paid mobile editing software. And it costs only about $30, but I have heard a lot of good things about LumaFusion. I haven't really used it yet, but I thought I would put it there for anybody who's interested in checking it out. For mobile, you can obviously use it on your phone and also tablet editing. Before I start editing, I always make sure that I'm managing my files really well. Outside of the editing program, what I would suggest is to organize your footage, your photos, and your graphics into different files that would make sense to you. This is an example of what I do. I'll have folders for audio, footage, graphics, and then exports, which are versions or drafts of the videos that I export for review. Within footage, I would have, additional folders to organize all my B-rolls, which is video clips, interviews, and photos that I would use in my projects. And it's very important to start this now. If you're really new at editing, to start organizing your footage now. It'll just make your whole editing process much smoother and easier for you. Organization is key when it comes to editing, especially if you're ever plan to work with other editors. It's really important to have your footage and all your assets organized. So we'll just, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. នៅក្នុង file management ហ្នឹងមុននឹងយើងចាប់ផ្ដើមធ្វើការងារ editing ហ្នឹងគឺចំណុចសំខាន់មែនតើតែយើងអត់មានរៀបចំ file ត្រឹមត្រូវទេគឺវាទៅញ៉ៃញ៉ៃហើយអាចបាត់អាចអីអញ្ចឹងណាខ្ញុំធ្លាប់ធ្វើការតាក់ទងជាមួយវីដេអូហ្នឹងពេល upload ហើយអត់ដឹងយើងទុកណាធ្វើឲ្យ export ទៅចេញណាណៃអញ្ចឹងមុននឹងយើងចាប់ផ្ដើមធ្វើការងារ edit វីដេអូហ្នឹង file management ហ្នឹងគឺជា key ហ្មងដូច Can you move slide to the previous one, please?
Yep.
ដូចឌីគាត់លើកឧទាហរណ៍ឲ្យយើងឃើញអញ្ចឹងគាត់រៀបចំឡើងស្អាតឡើងត្រឹមត្រូវហើយយើងនៅមើលឃើញឡើងច្រើនទៀតចុះទ្រាំតែយើងអត់រៀបចំឲ្យស្អាតវាទៅជាមិនទៅអញ្ចឹងណាវាអាចបាត់ការងារដែលយើងបានធ្វើអញ្ចឹងមុននឹងចាប់ផ្ដើមយើងគួរតែរៀបចំអា file management ហ្នឹងឲ្យល្អឲ្យត្រឹមត្រូវមានរបៀបរៀបរយជៀសវាងធ្វើឲ្យអត់ដឹងឯកសារណា final ណាវាខាត់ការងារខាត់ពេលវេលាខាត់ទាំងអស់អញ្ចឹងមុននឹងចាប់ផ្ដើមទាំងអស់គ្នាជាអ្នក editor ជាអ្នកកាត់តវីដេអូធ្វើវីដេអូអីហ្នឹងគួរតែរៀបចំ file ឲ្យបានល្អត្រឹមត្រូវ
So we'll just go right into DaVinci Resolve and go over the software right now. So let me switch to my second window so you can see. Feel free to follow along if you have this open. I think editing is the best way to learn editing is to get into the software and the program and start editing. The way DaVinci Resolve works is that once you open the program up, you have what is called this is like the menu, the first project window, I guess, that you'll see. And here you'll see that you have an untitled project, and this untitled project is always here all the time in case you needed to start a new project. But you also have a button here to start a new project. DaVinci Resolve is based on bases, and if you click on here, you'll see a local database. So with other editing programs, they'll give you a project file, but DaVinci Resolve actually saves all your projects and all the contents and assets related to it in a database. So by default, it's in the local database, but I would like, usually because I work on projects on hard drives, I want to create a new database. So to create a new database, just go down here to this button, new database. And then you can create a name that you'll know for your database. So I'll just put one and then browse to look for that database. And I will store my database once it loads. And my hard drive. And here, I'd like to point out also those folders that I created. This is where I also put all of my footage as well, so that if I ever move from a different computer, I always have the database with me and I can work on the whole project. So open here and it'll create a new database for us. All right, so to start, just keep in mind that if this database is disconnected, for example, I finish editing and then I'm taking the hard drive to a different computer and then I come back the next day and I forget to bring my hard drive, your project won't be on that computer. So you really need to kind of travel with your hard drive. And this is only for if you do travel. If you don't and you work on just that one computer, then you can use the local database. So let's start and create a new project. To create a new project, just create a new project. I'll put this fishing among the mountains. And feel free to use the footage that I sent you guys because those will be the same footage I'll be using for today's training. So once you create a project, your DaVinci Resolve interface will pop up. And I'm going to mention one thing and then I'll let somebody translate unless everybody is good. DaVinci Resolve is based on a page menu. So you have different pages down on the bottom here for different things like color correction, effects, and then delivering your video. For our purpose, for this training, we're only going to focus on the edit page, which is down here, or you can find it from workspace, switch to page, edit. Right?
បើសិនជាទាំងអស់គ្នាមាន file ហ្នឹង download software ហ្នឹងហើយគួរតែបើកហើយ follow គាត់ទៅតែបើអត់ទាន់ទេអាចគ្រាន់តែមើលក៏បានដែរតែចំណុចសំខាន់មួយពេលដែលយើងបើកចាប់ផ្ដើម project ថ្មីហ្នឹងគឺ database បើសិនជាយើងអ្នកដែលធ្វើការចល័តច្រើនយើងគួរតែ save វានៅក្នុងបង្កើត database នៅក្នុង hard drive អីអញ្ចឹងទៅហើយ make sure ថាយើង link វាបើសិនជាយើងលុបវាចោលឬក៏យើងបើក computer ហើយយើងអត់ដោត hard drive ទេវារកអត់ឃើញទេអញ្ចឹងប្រកាសថាយើងត្រូវប្រកាសក្នុងខ្លួនថាយើងដឹងកន្លែងណាយើងគួរតែ save ហើយ make sure ថាយើង link វាបើអត់ផ្លាស់ប្ដូរទីតាំងវាញ៉ៃៗទៅអញ្ចឹងទេយើងបើកទៅអត់ចេញទេហើយមួយទៀតនេះពេលយើងបង្កើត project ហើយ database ហើយវាចេញផ្ទាំងនៅក្នុង DaVinci ហ្នឹងគឺមានកន្លែង page ជាច្រើនដូច D គាត់និយាយមិញហ្នឹងប៉ុន្តែពេលដែលយើងមើលថ្ងៃនេះគឺមើល page edit នេះចំណុចក្រហមនឹងក្រោមហ្នឹងណាបើសិនជាយើងចុចអាហ្នឹងក៏បានឬក៏ទៅកន្លែង workspace នៅខាងលើចិត្តអក្សរ help ហ្នឹងក៏បានដែរបើក page edit ចឹងណា
So before you do any editing or anything, the one thing even for any other editing project is you want to make sure that you change your project setting to something that you want and not the default. So, I mean, for beginner editing, I think it's okay to do default settings, but we'll go over it a little bit really quickly here. You want to make sure that you change your project settings by going to File, Project Settings. The format, we'll just highlight the master settings for now. Once you get more into DaVinci Resolve, you can start exploring all these other settings that you can change for in the program. For the timeline resolution, I always try to keep it at 1920 1080. That's HD. Sometimes some people will do 720, but since we're already in the HD era, let's just use 1920, 1080. I won't talk about frame rate today, but this is where you would change your frame rate. Down here is another option that I think is really important to highlight, which is proxy media. Proxies are basically lower resolution version of your footage. So let's say you film a big drone footage and it's 4K and you bring into your computer, but your computer is not like powerful enough to run that and play back smoothly. What you can do is have it create a proxy or low resolution version of that video clip. And here is where you would tell DaVinci where to store those clips or how DaVinci should lower the resolution. For here, for the proxy media resolution, I'll do half, but you can choose. You can see there's different resolution that you can choose. And then for the proxy media format, I'm just going to use ProRes 422 proxies. And this is just simple settings to start with. And then once you get more into, editing a lot of videos, you can start researching more about the different types of proxies that you can use. So yeah, for optimized media resolution, I also use half and then ProRes proxies 422 as the media format. Down here in the working folders, you want to make sure that I personally would put these where my folders are, where my original footage folder is, because I work remotely sometimes with my footage. So I want to make sure that I keep everything in one spot and then travel with my hard drive. So I'll change the settings, the location where these files are going to live. And I'll just switch them to my video editing training folder. You have your proxy generation location. So if Resolve converts those high definition footage into low resolution, where do you want the Resolve to put it? And same thing with your cache files, which are just files that help start up the project faster. And then gallery stills, if you took a screen, like a frame of your video and you wanted to use it as a photo, this location tells the Resolve where to put that. And because I like to travel with my projects, I'm putting all of those files into the one folder. And then you can save it, and then it'll say, do you want to update the gallery path? Update it. Yeah.
The Ellie cannot open, or it's not work for the media proxy. What about?
It just said the option that you use for the media format, the Pro 425 doesn't seem to be available on mine.
On yours? Okay. We're not gonna run a proxy. We're not gonna convert any footage to proxy today just because we don't have a lot of time. So you can just put it, like to H.264 for now, whichever one works for you for now.
Great.
It's just some of them are lower in size than others.
Okay.
But yeah, so just put one that will work on your computer for now. Since we don't have a lot of time, but I still want you guys to know what a proxy is. And then, once you start working with the really high def footage, you can start doing a little bit more research on proxy files.
Great, thank you.
Okay, great. Right.
នៅក្នុងពេលដែលយើងចាប់ផ្ដើមបើកផ្ទាំង edit នេះយើងគួរតែមើលទៅលើ setting project setting ហើយដូចឌីគាត់បង្ហាញមិញហ្នឹងធ្វើមិនយើងអីដែលសំខាន់បើសិនយើងគ្រាន់អ្នកដំបូងយើងអាចមើលធ្វើតាម default វាសិនប៉ុន្តែចំណុចសំខាន់ហ្នឹងយើងគួរតែមើលទៅលើ master setting set ថាវា HD នៅហើយមាន proxy អីនៅដូចអីគាត់បង្ហាញមុនហ្នឹងអញ្ចឹងណាហើយ save ឯកសារហ្នឹងនៅណាហ្នឹងចំណុចគួរតែចាប់ផ្ដើមហើយយើងអត់គួររំលងទេ
Okay, now to create and Resolve what you to create folders within within Resolve. Well, I just want to, I guess, talk a little bit about it. To create any type of folder in Resolve, all you have to do is right click and then click new bin, and then it'll create a new bin for you. So this is just a folder within the editing program that you can store footage and photos and all your assets. The cool thing about organizing your footage ahead of time, like we talked about in the first slide, if you already have all your footage and all of your assets organized, you can also just select them and drag and drop them into the master bin over here, and it'll automatically create bins for you. So that's also one of the cool thing about Resolve that I thought was really cool. I'll also create another quick bin here for what I like to call sequences, and this is versions of my timeline that I use for editing. For example, if I finish an edit and then somebody wanted to make a big change, I would just make a copy of that timeline and then work on the big change on the second timeline in case they want to go back to a different version of my video. So that's how you would import your folders into it. If you wanted to import footage, for example, you would just go to whichever folder it is and then right click and import media for importing media. If you wanted to create a new bin, you could just import a bin or create a new bin.
ចឹងនៅក្នុង DaVinci ហ្នឹងចំណុចល្អមួយគាត់ថា cool thing ហ្នឹងគឺវាយើងជាទូទៅពេលយើងចាប់ផ្ដើមធ្វើការយើងត្រូវបង្កើតការ folder ឬក៏ bin ហ្នឹងនៅក្នុង DaVinci ហ្នឹងប៉ុន្តែDaVinci ហ្នឹងមានសមត្ថភាពឲ្យយើងទាញ folder ពីកន្លែងនៅក្នុង file នៅក្នុង computer យើងហ្នឹងមកដាក់នៅក្នុង software ហ្នឹងហ្មងអញ្ចឹងវាដូច mirror អញ្ចឹងវាដូច file តែមួយអញ្ចឹងហើយពេលយើង save ទៅវា auto save ទៅហើយយើងមិនបាច់ចាំបើកម្ដងហើយម្ដងទៀតឬក៏ create bin ដាក់ឈ្មោះផ្សេងអីឲ្យញញៃ complicate ហ្នឹងពេលដែលយើងរៀបចំ file management យើងនៅក្នុង computer យើងបានល្អហើយយើងទាញមកទៅវាដើរទៅហើយ
Yeah, but notice how like all the footage that I already had in those folders, they also got imported automatically. So this is good. Another reason why you should organize your footage before you start editing. One other thing that I would like for everyone to keep in mind is also DaVinci, like all other like professional editing programs, if you move your footage from where it was into a different spot, DaVinci or Resolve won't know where it went. So most professional editing programs, if you move a footage, then the program doesn't know where that footage went. So you'll need to tell the program where that footage went. And to do this is called Relinking Media. You just right click on the media that is missing and then go down to Relink Selected Clips. And then you go back to the same folder or wherever you move that video clip, find that folder and then open it, and then Resolve will know where to go back to find that exact clip. If you make any changes to the names outside of the editing program, this also happens. It won't know which video you're wanting. So if you need to make any changes to the names, make sure you do that inside the editing program.
អញ្ចឹងត្រូវចាំថាបើចែកដនយើងនៅក្នុង folder ក្នុង computer យើងលុបឬក៏យើងដូរឈ្មោះយើងអីនៅក្នុង DaVinci ហ្នឹងក៏វាលុបវារត់ឃើញទេវាអត់ឆ្លាតដល់ថ្នាក់ទៅរកទីតាំងថ្មីរបស់ folder ហ្នឹងឬក៏ footage ហ្នឹងឲ្យយើងទេអញ្ចឹងយើងត្រូវ relink វា link វាម្ដងទៀតទៅនឹង file ថ្មីអញ្ចឹងទៅ
Okay, so we'll start and we'll create a new timeline. So I'll go to my sequences folder, and to create a new timeline, again, just right click and then create timeline, create new timeline. And here you'll have a dialog box that comes up. I'm just going to say use project settings because we already set those settings ahead of time. I'm just going to call this, give it a name. And then the number of video tracks and audio tracks that you want. So I'm just going to choose 3 for something like if I had interviews, B-rolls, and any graphics. So that could be three tracks. Same thing with audio. It could be the interview, it could be sound effects, it could be music. For audio track type, I'm just going to choose stereo. And I think this for beginners, this is really good just to start with the stereo. There's a whole bunch of different audio track style that you can settings that you can choose, like surround sound, but we're just going to go with stereo for now. And then just go ahead and create a timeline. And then you'll see all your tracks up here and all your video tracks up here, and then all your audio tracks down here. And then before we start putting footage onto it, I just want to highlight the interface of Resolve really quickly. Resolve have up here, a media pool is obviously where all your footage is. You have an effects windows where you'll have all your video transitions, audio transitions, titles. For the free version, some of these are not available, but I think to get started on editing, it's really good just to use their basic transitions. We won't go over edit index or sound library, but now you know like where the effects folder is. Over here you have 2 windows. This one is considered this is called a source window, and it's basically if you wanted to preview your video or your B-roll, your footage, this is where the footage would appear. Over here is a timeline window, and it's basically showing whatever is on your timeline down here. You also have the inspector window, and this is kind of like an effects control panel. If I were to insert a clip, and you can just insert a clip by dragging and dropping, so it's pretty easy. If you wanted to make any effects to this clip, if you clicked it, you would see that all here's a whole bunch of lists of things that you can do to it, like change the sizing of the video, for example, change the position, or you can crop the video however you want over here. But this only affects this one clip. There's also audio and then effects. So whatever changes you make to this panel affects this clip that you selected. You also have the mixer, which is a window that pops up all the audio levels that may see if it. I turned it off for us, but you can adjust the levels for audio as needed on this side. So I'll turn that off for now. This right here is your timeline. This is where all the editing is going to happen. So we'll go over some of the different tools in the timeline. Somebody interrupt me if you need to translate, or if anybody has any questions or wants somebody to translate any of this, please let her know, and then she can interrupt me. In the timeline, you have your selection tool. You have, and this is also in your shortcut cheat sheets that I sent out. You have your selection tool, trim mode tool. This is a tool called slip and slide. You have your blade tool, which is basically a tool that just splits a video in half. So it just cuts your video for you. And in the shortcut, I've also given you guys a keyboard shortcut on how to use it faster. But we'll go over really quick here the trim tool. I'm just gonna go ahead and delete this clip. Actually, no, I won't delete that clip. I'll just use it. I'm just gonna add another clip next to it to show you guys how to use the trim tool. First, actually, before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and just put this clip all the way, like kind of like in a little bit. So in the trim tool, there's the trim tool is basically a tool for like trimming the clips. So you can make it smaller or longer as long as the duration of the clip is. So this is another way for you to trim footage. Because I had that overlap of the footage, you can see that if I did a trim here, it actually extends the duration of one clip and then changes the duration of the second clip. So you can kind of change your start and end point for one video and start point for another video. So that's a pretty cool thing about the trim tool. And within the trim tool and these two slip and slide tools, they all sort of, you can access these two tools within the trim mode tool. So I'm not gonna go too much into this tool, but basically in the trim mode tool, you can use those two tools. The slide tool, I'll go over really quickly here what the slip tool is. The slip tool is basically a way for you to move the content of your video clip without moving the duration. So let's say this clip, I like that it's, starts, this is the duration and I like it, but I don't like that she starts, like, maybe I want her to start when she's scooping the food, or then I would just use the slip tool to move the content of the clip. And to do that, all you have to do is if you put your mouse over the top of the clip, you can move the content of the clip. And then when you're actually using it, you can see that in the monitor, you can see the beginning, which is the first frame of this clip, and then the end frame of this clip. So you can see how like as I'm moving it, you can see that the content is moving, but the duration of the clip is not moving. So this is just a way for you to change the content within your clip. So maybe I wanted to start it sooner. I think let me show it to you guys on the interviews. I think this will be an easier way to show you. So let's say right here, you can hear.
Eli.
Okay,
so he's talking in the beginning, right? So we don't really want that clip. Let's just cut this clip really quick so I can show you. This is a very long clip, right? And this is let's say this is the duration that we want the clip to be. This is how long we want the clip to be. You can use the trim tool and let's say this is the place that we want to move. We want to move the beginning of this clip. And I'll just mark it with the M so I can kind of see where it's at. And this is also in your shortcut, so I won't go over it too much, but you can mark the clip. And then as you're sliding it, you can see that the marker is also sliding. So the content of the clip is sliding, but not the duration. And then for the slide tool, if I added another clip here, let's say I just add here, the slide tool basically changes the in and out point of your video clip. So if I wanted to change this video clip, the interview, then I can just use the slide tool to slide the duration, like where it ends and also where it starts. But you can see that it only affects the interview clip and not this B-roll clip. The B-roll clip stays the same. So just another cool little tool to use when you want to just make the micro adjustments, makes a little bit adjustment or extend the clip a little bit.
ดีគាត់បង្ហាញពី tool មួយចំនួនដែលមាននៅលើ DaVinci ហ្នឹងមកដល់ចំណុចនេះមានគេមានសំណួរអីទេឬឆ្ងល់អីអត់ហ្នឹង Any question at this stage or we can go ahead
Yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to like just send it in the chat or if you want me to slow down.
វាក៏បើកម៉ៃសួរហ្មងក៏បានដែរបើចង់អត់ចង់ទៅសេនៅក្នុង chat box ទេ
Good.
Okay.
Okay. Cool. So yeah, so with the trim mode tool, basically you can do all of that. The slip and slide tool, it's just the same thing, but you know, you're just choosing which one you want to use. But I don't think there's really a need for that right now because you can also do that within the trim edit mode tool. This is the replay insert clip. So let's say I wanted to insert a clip on top of her. When she says destination, I want to insert a clip on top of what she's saying, like a little scenery of where they went. I'm going to quickly just lock the audio and video, the first channels or the first tracks. And then I'm going to go up here and let's see, this scenery looks pretty nice. I'm going to add a in and what they call an out point, or I'm going to tell Resolve that in this long clip, I only want to use this small section. So I create an in and an out point by pressing I and O, and then I'll have a shorter clip. And then using this button, this insert clip button, I'll just insert it on top of this video. It should work. Oh, sorry. I forgot to tell you guys that in editing programs, selecting your layers matter. So make sure you're selecting which layer is active. So I locked those, but I didn't select the other ones to make them active. So that's why I didn't drop it in. So I'm just gonna click on that B-roll and then drop it in. So now you can see it just it just inserted that video clip on top. Now, if I didn't want,
Sorry, to make the I and the in and out points, you said you press I and O. Is that like a keyboard thing?
Yeah, it's a keyboard thing. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. You just press I on the keyboard and O on the keyboard to set an in and an out point or a start.
And that just takes a smaller piece of the video and puts it in.
Yeah.
To your timeline.
So it creates a smaller piece of the video.
Great.
Yep. So if you didn't want that clip on top of this video, for example, I can go back to selecting my first audio channel. And let me just delete this for demonstration purposes. Let's say she stopped talking and I wanted this clip to go in here. I can also use that same insert clip tool, and it'll actually move everything behind the clip and insert the whole clip into that section. So those are different options you can use. The next tool is a overwrite tool. So if I wanted to, let's say, overwrite this clip with a different clip, she already ended talking, and then I wanted to show a B-roll, and then I want to show maybe another B-roll. I'll do it in and an out point on the keyboard again, and then I'll replace. So when you replace it replaces based on the duration of your clip. So if my clip was longer, let's say, let's see. If this clip was longer and I replaced it, you see how it kind of extends all the way to the end. So it just really depends on what piece of that clip you want to use, but it'll replace the clip under that with that clip. So that's the overwrite one. Oh, sorry, that's the overwrite. And then the difference between overwrite and replace is that with overwrite, the duration stays the same. If you'll notice, like, it didn't move that. It shouldn't. Wait, no. Oh, sorry. I messed these two up. Sorry. Overwrite is overwriting it, and replace, the difference between replace is that it only replaces that one section. It should only replace that one section. Oh, it's not really doing it. Maybe did I add a transition? Nope, I didn't. It'll just replace the, yeah, there you go. Oh. So it'll just replace that clip and that duration. it will stay the same. So nothing moves behind it. So this clip doesn't move when I use the replace because the duration stays the same. But if I use overwrite, it'll just, you know, overwrite anything behind it as well. So those are some of the tools that you can use for editing.
Tool ពី3ដែលគាត់បង្ហាញមិញនេះក៏យើងគួរតែ take note វាសំខាន់ដែរព្រោះបើសិនជាយើងប្រើខុសclip មួយចំនួនដែលយើងកាត់ហើយវាអាចបាត់បង់ដូច insert override ហើយនឹង replace ហ្នឹងហើយមួយទៀតយើងគួរតែមើលខាងឆ្វេងដៃដែលគេដាក់ V1 V2 V3 ហ្នឹងជា layer ពេលដែលយើង click layer ខុសស្អីដែលយើង insert ហ្នឹងដូចគាត់ធ្វើឧទាហរណ៍យើងមើលមុនហ្នឹងវាអាចចូលទៅក្នុង V1 ហ្នឹងហ្មងបានន័យថា original file ដែលយើងកាត់តែបើសិនជាយើងគិតថាយើងគ្រាន់តែដាក់ B-roll យើងដាក់នៅក្នុង V2 ក៏បានដែរយើងអត់ត្រូវការច្រើនឲ្យវាបញ្ចូលនៅក្នុង clip វែងហ្នឹងទេអញ្ចឹងពេលដែលយើង select layer ហ្នឹងយើងត្រូវភ្នែកយើងត្រូវមើលរហូតដល់កន្លែង layer V1 V2 V3 ហ្នឹងណាហើយreplace ហើយនឹង override ហ្នឹងក៏សំខាន់ដែរព្រោះមិនចឹងទេវាបាត់ហើយវារុញ file វារុញអីវាអាចទៅជាញ៉ៃអញ្ចឹងមុនយើងប្រើយើងត្រូវប្រកាសក្នុងចិត្តថាស្អីដែលយើង click ហ្នឹងគឺយើងយល់ច្បាស់
And then one little quick tip before we take a quick 10-minute break is if you had it in if you know selected a clip and then added it in an out point, for example, to clear this in and out point, you can just go to mark and clear in and out. Or there's also another shortcut that you can use, and it's in the shortcut sheet. So, and another one thing before I forget is these icons are basically audio icons. You can solo a certain track. So if you had a music track and you only want to hear the music, you can, or if you had the music track and you only want to hear the interview, you can solo this track so that the only audio you hear is this track. And then you can also mute a single track if you're, so they kind of work the same depending on what you want to preview, I guess. Yeah. So, yeah, I think it's, is it okay we take a quick 10-minute break here, and then when we come back we'll go over some of the different types of cuts that you can make, some of the different types of cuts and transitions you can do in the editing program. And then we'll go over kind of like a workflow, like how I do my editing when I'm working on like a documentary like this one. Does that sound like a good plan?
អញ្ចឹងD គាត់បង្ហាញពី tool មួយចំនួននៅក្នុង DaVinci ហ្នឹងហើយប៉ុន្តែគាត់អត់ទាន់បង្ហាញពីរបៀបកាត់របៀបអីស៊ីជម្រៅទៀតទេតែសូមសម្រាប់10នាទីសិនណាហើយElizabeth, could we get an email copy of the shortcut as well? I think it's already sent out.
Yeah, it's already sent.
Yeah, it should be in the email.
Oh.
I believe.
Great. Okay. Sorry. I think I just saw it in the chat. Thanks.
No worries.
អញ្ចឹងទាំងអស់គ្នាจะតបាន shortcut file PDF មួយដែល D គាត់ធ្វើឲ្យយើងស្រួលមើលថាពេលយើងកាត់យើងប្រើ shortcut អីខ្លះក្នុង keyboard របស់យើងអាច practice បានអញ្ចឹងសម្រាប់10នាទីណា
So let's take a quick 10-minute break, and then as you know, if you don't need a break, you can also like write some questions if you have anything that you want me to quickly review before we go into like the different types of cuts and transitions that we can do in editing in the editing program. Okay, cool. Let's take a quick little break. I'll stop sharing for a second here, and I'll be back.
អញ្ចឹងអ្នកទាំងអស់គ្នាអាចសម្រាប់ឬមើលក៏សរសេរសំណួរនៅក្នុង chat box គិតថាឬក៏ display ទៅលើ program ឬក៏អ្នកណាអត់បាន download program ហ្នឹងអាចចាប់ផ្ដើម download ទៅក្នុងរយៈពេល10នាទីហ្នឹងអរគុណច្រើន
Everybody's here?
I think.
All right. Cool. Hopefully, maybe you guys can give us a thumbs up reaction if you're here, if you came back. Oh, okay, great. A few thumbs up. Hopefully the other people came back. But all right, I'll just go ahead and I'll share my screen again. All righty, let's get back into it. So there is a lot of different types of cuts when it comes to editing. So I'll talk about these two cuts really quickly, and then we'll actually work on the next two because I feel like this is pretty self-explanatory. One type of cut is basically just straight cuts. So cutting from one scene to the next scene without any transition, and just pretty seamless cut, like you just cut from one scene to the next. Straight cut, or they call like a hard cut. Another type of cut is cutaways. So cutting away from, let's say, like an interviewee and cutting to a B-roll of what they're talking about. So here's an example of a video of this video, actually fishing among the mountains, where we're having an interview and then we're cutting away to different B-rolls or different footage of what the interviewee is talking about. So I'll play this. Let me know if the audio is too low.
We are now in Diadem. This is the last village in the northwestern part of Myanmar, very close to India border. This village is situated in the Razi National Park, very good primary forest in the watershed, and the stream is like intact situation. We would like to conserve some areas in collaboration with the community. Yes.
So you can see with cutaways, it's really just kind of like cutting away from like to something else within kind of like the same. If you're talking about fictional videos, it's cutting from one I guess scene of one clip, I guess, of a scene to like another shot of something within that same scene. For nonfiction, cutaways will be like B-rolls and explaining what B-rolls that would explain what, or kind of illustrate what the interviewee is talking about. So we have the interview talking and he's talking about Pongaratsi. So then I overlaid footage of the location. One other type of cut is using audio as a transition. So using a sound effects and music to transition between one scene to the next scene. So let's take a quick look at this.
Here's where we're staying for the next few days. Yeah, it's nice and warm here by the fire.
So if you'll notice in that first shot, in this first shot, it's pretty seamless to cutting from the first shot to second shot, because we actually use the audio of the second shot. We brought it in ahead of time before showing the clip. So then the audience already has an idea of, they're already hearing the sound and now they see the footage. So it's not an abrupt change. It's a really pretty smooth transition. And it's also known as the J and L cut. And we'll go over now how to create this type of transition in DaVinci Resolve. So we'll go back to the editing program. Okay, so let's go to our B-rolls. And the two clips that we used was this audio transition, and I named them so it'll be easy for everybody to find. This audio transition, these two clips right here. And because I don't want to mess with my interview clip, I'll just go ahead and create a new timeline. And we'll just do this, we'll just call this audio transition, just as an example so you guys can kind of see. And I'm only doing one video clip and one audio clip. So back in B-roll, this is the first clip. So I'll just put it right on the timeline. You can also you know, do this, insert it here too, using these insert tools. I just intend to, it's a habit of mine to just like add it. So I usually just drag and drop. Right. So the way that transition was created was that the audio for this second clip actually appears before the clip, the video. So in order to create, let me zoom in a little bit here, and this is how you can zoom into your timeline. In order to create that transition, you have to have additional footage in front of your footage and behind it. So I've already cropped these, so they're pretty much like at the end of the clip. So what I need to do now is actually, you know, allow some space for the transition to happen. So I'll just kind of like separate those really quick. And then you can also right click and ripple delete to move the clips back together. And now you can use the trim mode tool. And this is also in your cheat sheet. With the trim mode tool on, you can select Option or Alt, depending on what computer you're in, and select the audio. So holding down Option, you can select between the two audio clips and then extend this second audio clip so it comes out a little bit more. And then we can add in a audio transition, like a crossfade, for example, between those two. So it's a little bit more seamless when the audio transitions from one clip to the other clip. So now if we play it, we have that same transition where the audio comes in first, and then you start seeing the video. There's also another clip, which is another editing, because it's called a J&L clip. The opposite of this is that you would have the video come first and the audio would come later. So let me just move this. So here's another, this would be the opposite of that, where you're playing the video and the video changes, but the audio is still the same, and then it slowly changes into the audio of the second clip. So this is just a way for you to transition from scene to scene without doing like crazy transitions or really hard cuts, if you want the transition to be a little bit smoother. So this is a really good technique for that. Let's go to our next transition that I like to highlight. If you guys have any question about that one, let me know. I think it's a really good technique for changing from scene to scene, especially when you're like, you're coming from like a traveling montage scene, and then you're going into this more mellow mood where they're just cooking. And so it's going from fast pace to like much slower pace. So it's a pretty good transition or a way to cut from scene to scene. Another way to transition between scenes to scene is also using camera movement or flowing from one scene to the other scene. So we'll take a look at this and then we'll replicate it in DaVinci Resolve. So you can see how the camera is transitioning. The camera is panning, right? And then we cut to another panning shot. And then I added a kind of like a dissolve just to make the transition even smoother. But the angle of the camera is basically the same. And it creates this kind of like passage of time montage type of feeling, especially when you're using footage like, all the landscapes. So to create this in Resolve, I'm just going to go ahead and let's just make another timeline to make it easier. let's just call this camera movement. So in my B-roll, I've also already named these for you guys. So this is the first clip. Make sure there's no in and out point. And then this is the second clip that we're going to be using. So it's, I mean, again, really simple. This is the most simple one, I think. As long as your shots are similar, you can cut from one shot to the other. So I want to start maybe I want to start right here. I'll just cut it. Delete this one. Ripple delete. And then let's see, let's say I want to end right. Let's say in between here, I want to transition to the other shot. I can use the trim mode and just trim this here, or I could just move it over. And then this clip, again, let's say this is at this spot is not where I want it, right? I want it to start maybe right here. I can mark it again using our slip tool. I can slip this so that the beginning starts right there. And maybe I just cut this ending and delete it. So now we have transition, panning to another panning shot. And to make it a little bit smoother, because the camera person was a bit like fast in his panning, I'll just add a quick cross dissolve on top of the video. So now you have that cross dissolve between the one shot and the second shot. Oh, it's a bit slow. My computer, it's slowing down. All right, so that's another way you can create transitions without using, you know, kind of crazy transition like these ones, like arrows, diamonds, or, you know, areas. These are pretty, you know, traditional and a bit, I don't know, I guess a little bit old-fashioned transition. So these type of cuts actually make it more seamless, that people don't pay attention to it. Your transitions, they're engaged in the videos, they're engaged in your story. They're not distracted with any like crazy transitions. So I really recommend trying these out with your footage. If you have any footage that have these sets sort of the same motion, then, you know, you could try editing those two footage together and then creating this type of transition. Let me go back to my PowerPoint. Right, and then one thing I would want everybody to remember is also Control or Command Z. That's your best friend. If you ever make a mistake, and I've been doing Command Z a lot today already, but you can always, you know, Command Z and redo that cut if it wasn't what you wanted. So that's pretty much your best friend. You'll get used to it.
Let me recap a bit about type of cut. និយាយទៅ D គាត់បង្ហាញឲ្យថាពេលដែលយើងកាត់តហ្នឹងវាមានបែបផែនបែបសន្តានផ្សេងៗគ្នាអញ្ចឹងណាឧទាហរណ៍ដូច straight cut អញ្ចឹងគាត់នឹងកាត់ចាប់ដាក់តគ្នាហ្មងឬក៏ប្រើ cutaway ដោយមានរូប B roll ឧទាហរណ៍អីដែលគាត់ឧទាហរណ៍ហ្នឹងគឺពេលដែលយើងកំពុងសម្ភាសន៍គេម្នាក់អញ្ចឹងយើងដាក់រូបអីមួយកុំឲ្យយើងមើលតាមមុខអ្នកដែលយើងសម្ភាសន៍ហ្នឹងរហូតក្នុងរយៈពេលប្រហែល1នាទីឬក៏កន្លះនាទីអញ្ចឹងទៅវារៀងធុញហើយខាត់របៀបខាត់មួយទៀតហ្នឹងគឺប្រើ audio បើយើងបន្ថែមឬក៏បញ្ចូលសលេងប្លង់ថ្មីរួចជាស្រេចនៅក្នុងប្លង់ចាស់របស់យើងអញ្ចឹងប្រើ audio ជា transition អញ្ចឹងដូច introduce ទីតាំងថ្មីអញ្ចឹងទៅយើងអ្នកមើលអាចមានអារម្មណ៍រៀងដឹងថាគាត់ expect គាត់នឹង expect អីអញ្ចឹងណាហើយមួយទៀតហ្នឹងគឺប្រើ camera movement ដូចគាត់ឧទាហរណ៍អញ្ចឹងបើសិនជាយើងមានបើទោះជាទីតាំងផ្សេងៗគ្នាប៉ុន្តែបើសិនជាទីតាំង camera movement ហ្នឹងវាដូចគ្នាដូចឧទាហរណ៍របស់គាត់គឺគេ pan ទៅខាងឆ្វេងដៃទៅពេលបន្ទាប់មកមានប្លង់មួយទៀតគឺនៅតែឆ្វេងដៃដដែលអញ្ចឹងយើងអាចបូកចូលគ្នាคล้ายជាប្លង់ស្អាតមួយអញ្ចឹងទៅហើយគេប្រើ transition cross dissolve ហ្នឹងគឺមើលទៅអ្នកមើលអត់សូវចាប់អារម្មណ៍ទេព្រោះវា វាមិន hard cut ដូចកាត់តដាច់ផឹងហ្មងមាន transition ដែរហើយមួយទៀតយើងត្រូវចាំហើយប្រហែលជាយើងនឹងប្រើច្រើនមែនតើនៅក្នុង editing ហ្នឹងគឺ command ឬក៏ control Z អញ្ចឹងវាងាយនឹង make mistake ដែលថាយើងធ្វើអីខុសយើងគ្រាន់តែ control ឬក៏ command Z មកវិញមករឿងអញ្ចឹងកើតឡើងច្រើនសម្រាប់ editor ព្រោះកាត់បន្តិចទៅខុសយើង control Z អញ្ចឹងណាចា
Okay, great. So those are just a few of the quick techniques in terms of like cutting and transitions that I wanted to highlight with you guys, just so you can get started with editing. Like now you know the layout of the program and how to get your footage on the timeline and cut it. The next thing I want to talk about really is music and sound effects. So while video like stimulates people's eyes, music and sounds stimulates people's heart. So music, if done right, will control the mood and the feeling of your story. So when you're choosing music for your story, you want to consider, you know, if you have an interviewee, for example, what kind of tone is that person speaking in? Are they very energetic? Are they very quiet? Are they, you know, very emotional? Then you want to choose a type of music that would match that person and also match the feeling that you want for the video. My goal all the time is always if I can make somebody cry in my video, that would be perfect. I mean, emotionally enough that they cry, like inspired enough and motivated enough that they're really moved by the video. So that's always my goals when I'm like choosing music for certain type of videos. It really also depends on the type of video. For at Fishfile, when I do a lot of like building fisheries equipment, like exciting new technology, and I use very upbeat music for those type of videos. So really, music is really important and audio is really important when it comes to you know film. So here's an example. I want to show you guys a quick example of the same documentary and this one clip but without music.
This is very important.
Oh, wrong one.
This is very important for Myanmar. If we cannot develop or if we cannot establish fish conservation zones in Myanmar, in freshwater or in the marine, that will affect the local communities in camp. So this is very, very important for the future, for the country and for the people, yes.
Okay, so keep that shot in mind and then let's listen to the same shot but with music.
This is very important for Myanmar. If we cannot develop or if we cannot establish fish conservation zones in Myanmar, in freshwater or in the marine, that will affect the local communities in camp. So this is very, very important for the future, for the country and for the people, yes.
All right, give me a thumbs up if you guys can tell the difference, if you felt a little bit different with the addition of the music. Yes. Okay, great. Yeah. So music really does make it, you know, at first it's just a person talking, right? You get the facts of what he's talking about, but when you add the music, you really can tell that he's really passionate about trying to conserve fisheries. He's really passionate about trying to establish fish conservations in those areas, his project areas. So music really adds like the emotion to a project. First, did I do sound effects? Did I move my sound effects? Sound effects is basically, it works in the same way. So for example, if you had drone footage do not have any audio. So sound effects are usually used when there's like no audio or the sound is really, it was recorded badly or something, then you would use sound effects to replace it. So for example, drone footage, a lot of drone footage, a lot of drone footage do not have audio. So you want to recreate those type of sounds in post-production. Now I'd like to go over really quick some of my workflow, actually how I start the workflow of how I edit footage. So usually what I do is I start with transcoding any type of footage that needs to be transcoded, really high resolution footage that maybe my computer cannot handle. So creating those proxy files and then organizing my footage into bins in the project windows. And then what I will actually do is create different sequences for each interviews. So let's say I have three people who I interview. I want to create a different timeline, different sequences for each of them. And so I can start looking at each individual person and start cutting out sound bites, really like sound bites or like audio bites of what they said that's important. And then usually what I'll do is I'll kind of highlight those or I'll drag those up. And I can show you guys really quick here in here. So, in the editing program. So let's go back to our main one with this audio clip. So here's an example.
So today was our second day of hiking, trying to get to our destination of Ziardam, which is one of the most remote villages in this northwest Myanmar. So kind of like the edge of the frontier, right before the border with India.
So like I would, to edit this clip, I would probably end it right here where she kind of ends the clip. And then once I'm able to select all of my, all these like nice little sound bites. I think there's certain parts where maybe she like stumbled.
Sunday, and basically everything. So today's Wednesday. We arrived on Sunday, and basically everything from then until now has just been trying to reach this spot. So it's pretty incredible. We're really out there. It's really remote, but you can tell the benefit of that to this place is that the forest is pretty intact.
So that's another good soundbite too. She's really good at talking. So we have a lot of sound bites. But basically what I'll do is I usually would cut those sound bites, and this is just my own workflow, and a lot of different editors have different editing workflows. But within her timeline, I would just select whichever soundbite that I want to use the most, or like maybe this one is better than the other one. I'll just cut it, and then I'll just kind of put it on the second track, so I know that okay, this soundbite is one that I want to go back to and use. And then once I start or finish doing cutting out all those sound bites, what I'll do is I will start creating a sequence for the full project. And then based on her tone of voice and how she's talking, I'll choose the correct music, or I'll choose music that would kind of like highlight what she's talking about. And then, so if she's talking about like
just been trying to reach today. Really out there, it's really remote.
So she's saying like it's really remote, and we can also add in our B-roll the same shot where you can see there's not, there's like nobody here. So we can add that to maybe video 3, track 3. And let's just add the video clip. So we can also just up here, you can just drag either the video or the audio clip. And then it'll just, if you just drag the video, then audio, of course, the audio clip doesn't follow with it. And sometimes you don't want the audio clip, like he's talking a lot in that clip. So what I would do here is I would probably just add some sort of sound effects that kind of sounds like maybe what this environment sound like, or recreate that sound, that environment, the sound of that environment. The thing is just to make sure that whatever sound effects you're using, that it is realistic and is actually representing the footage that you're showing. Like it's not something totally different. And then after I kind of lay out my interview and B-rolls, then that's when I'll start doing color corrections and any sort of effects that I need to do on the video clips.
They have one question for you. They have one question.
Yes.
Could you tell us which website we can download music for free?
Oh, good question. And I actually want to tell you guys that I've been an editor for many years, and free music never hits the spot. So there are other options to to use music that doesn't cost a lot of money. But if your company wants to start, your company or your institution or organization want to start editing, creating videos either for social media or for like YouTube or even broadcast, I want to really encourage you to encourage them to actually buy music for your projects, because one, most of the time you'll get better music. You'll have a big selection of music. The second I guess good thing about purchasing the music is that you won't have any issues with licensing. And that's a big thing within, with especially films, is if you don't have the music license, for example, on YouTube, they might cut your music out. Depending on the artist, they might tell YouTube that, hey, this is my music. If nobody has the license, then you can remove the music. And so you want to make sure that you're always using music that is licensed. One website that I think that I use is this website called Audio Jungle. And there's also another website called Premium Beat. Let me see. That, they have fairly good priced music that you can use. Another subscription-based audio or music library that I use a lot is Artlist.io. And this one actually I really like a lot because it fits the vibe and the music and I guess it fits the type of emotion I'm trying to tell with my films. So definitely check those out. But yeah, I really encourage you guys to ask your organization to pay for music because you'll just get so much more option and so much other ways to tell your story. Plus you're also supporting the artists. If there are some website for free music, but they're very standard type of music that you hear a lot, there's no different change in emotion, I feel like. But that's just my personal opinion. If you play music, you can create your own music, something like GarageBand on iMac, on Macs, you can create your own music. That's also another option. But yeah, so that's my little take on music. But music is important, so I encourage you guys to ask to see if you can get a subscription or to pay for some music. So now I'll just really quickly show you guys how to export your video after you're done in Resolve. Are you guys still seeing my editing screen?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, great. So again, like I was telling you guys, Resolve is based on a page menu. So down here, after let's pretend that this is a completed timeline, and I finished, editing the timeline. All you have to do for exporting is just go to Deliver here, and then you'll be changed. The interface will change to what it's considered the Deliver page menu, and then up here you'll have your file name, so you can change this to whatever. Let's say this is the first draft. So you'll choose a file name and then choose a location for where you want to export it. And again, back to that file management, I would go back to the working drive that I was using. And in my fourth folder, exports, this is where I would put, a draft. So that the Resolve will know how to send it there. And Resolve, and I haven't used this yet, but you can also use these presets that you can, like if you're doing it for YouTube, if you're sending it to YouTube, Vimeo, or I guess Dropbox. I never sent anything to Dropbox, but I'm just gonna go with custom with my same project setting, 1920 1080. And here render, you want to put single clip so that it renders the whole timeline. If you did individual clips, it'll basically render each individual clip that you have in your timeline. So like each cuts. So you want to make sure you have single clip selected. And then for format, I think the default is QuickTime, I believe, but I'm just going to use MP4 because most people on PC and Mac can open MP4. And then codec is just the standard H.265 compression. So I'll use that. And then the resolution, we already set it at the beginning of the project, so we'll keep it the same. These settings for beginning, I would just suggest you guys to leave it at the default. And then once you finish setting these, you know, adding your settings, however, whichever settings you want. Oh, it changed my name when I clicked among all the other settings, all the presets. Okay, and then you'll add it to render queue. So a render queue is basically if you had multiple timelines, for example, and you wanted to just export different versions, you can queue up all the timeline and then render them all at once. So you can go and do something else. So basically it'll render a couple of the timelines and then you're good to go. And so if you render it, it'll just render the video and then you can, I'm just gonna cancel it because I'm not really rendering that video. But yeah, so that's how you would deliver and render your footage for either, you know, feedback or like if you wanted to send it to somebody, or even if you wanted to just kind of get some, or even if you just wanted to like maybe put it on YouTube also for feedback. But yeah, so that's how you would do it. Do you guys have any questions on how to export? It's pretty simple. It's not too complicated, I feel like, when it comes to exporting.
Yeah, yes. Let me just recap a bit. មុននឹងឌីគាត់បាននិយាយពី sound ហើយនិង music ណាតាមពិតទៅពេលដែលយើងធ្វើវីដេអូបើសិនជាយើងវីដេអូតឯងហ្នឹងវាតាក់ទាញតែភ្នែកឯងប៉ុន្តែពេលដែលយើងបន្ថែមសំឡេងបន្ថែមចម្រៀងបន្ថែមអីអញ្ចឹងទៅ sound effect អីវាតាក់ទាញទាំង emotion របស់យើងដកអារម្មណ៍ទាំង mood ទាំងអីអញ្ចឹងណាវាប្រែប្រួលដូចឧទាហរណ៍ដែលគាត់លើកឡើងអញ្ចឹងហើយបើសិនជាយើងអ្នកធ្វើវីដេអូច្រើនបើទោះជាមានតាមពិតមាន music ជាច្រើននៅលើ internet អីហ្នឹងឲ្យយើងប្រើហើយវា free វាអីអញ្ចឹងប៉ុន្តែវានៅតែមានចំនួនកំណត់បើសិនជាយើងអ្នកធ្វើវីដេអូច្រើនយើងចង់បានសំឡេងប្លែកៗចម្រៀងអីឬក៏ music ណាមួយដែលវាមិនជន់គេជន់ឯងយើងគួរតែទៅចូល website ដែលឌីគាត់ប្រាប់មុនហ្នឹងមួយចំនួនហ្នឹងអាចទិញគេឬក៏ subscribe អីអញ្ចឹងទៅអញ្ចឹងយើងបាន music ដែលប្លែកហើយល្អជាជាងទៅយក free ហើយមួយទៀតនិយាយពី render ពេលដែលយើងនិយាយពី workflow អញ្ចឹងពេលដែលយើងកាត់តយើងគួរតែមាន workflow ខ្លួនឯងត្រឹមត្រូវជាអ្នក video editor ហ្នឹងអាច follow ឬក៏ធ្វើតាមអីដែល step 1 2 3 4ដល់11 step របស់ D ដែលគាត់បង្ហាញហ្នឹងក៏បានដែរប៉ុន្តែបើសិនជាយើងមានការមានរបៀបធ្វើការរបស់យើងគួរតែធ្វើទៅប៉ុន្តែអីដែលសំខាន់គឺគួរតែមាន step មាន workflow ថាទី1យើងត្រូវធ្វើអីអញ្ចឹងណាកុំឲ្យចេះតែធ្វើម្ដងជួយម្ដងស្ដាំម្ដងមុខម្ដងក្រោយអញ្ចឹងវាទៅជាញញៃវីដេអូរបស់យើងវិញហើយអាចបាត់ទៀតហើយស៊ីពេលទៀតហើយមួយក្រោយពេលដែលយើងធ្វើការងាររបស់យើងហើយគឺយើងត្រូវ render ហើយ and export អញ្ចឹង render វា take time ហើយD ក៏គាត់បង្ហាញដែរថាពេលយើងមាន setting មួយចំនួនពេលនៅឆ្វេងដៃហ្នឹងពេលយើង render យើងត្រូវ click ឬអីខ្លះ single clip HD ហើយនៅក្នុង DaVinci នេះគេក៏ propose ថាបើសិនជាយើងចង់បញ្ចេញ file ហ្នឹងទៅជាចូលក្នុង YouTube ទៅជាចូលក្នុងគេ Twitter អីអញ្ចឹងណាប៉ុន្តែជាទូទៅយើងច្រើនតែធ្វើទៅដាក់ custom គឺ save file ទៅក្នុង laptop របស់យើង format របស់យើងធម្មតា HD អីចឹងទៅគឺ MP4 អីហ្នឹងហើយដល់វគ្គនេះមានសំណួរអីទេ One question from Rani in YouTube. We can use audio library. There are also no copyright for user. Is it good?
Yeah, I mean, yes. So YouTube and a few different other editing programs. So like, for example, Adobe Rush that we're going to talk about. Adobe Rush gives you a library of royalty-free music as well on the editing program on your phone. Yeah, YouTube music you can also use too. I just find that sometimes like a lot of people use it, so it's kind of like the same music. But I mean, as a starting point, as a beginner editor, and you need to have music that's also licensed. You know, this YouTube audio is also a good way to start. I just don't know if you can import it into the editing program before you upload it to YouTube. So I think with the audio and YouTube, you kind of have to finish your video first and then you upload it and then you add the music, which sometimes that works out, but also sometimes if you're editing to music, which is another thing that I do, if I go to the beat, I make the cut at certain beats, or like maybe the music ends and it's like a dramatic beat drop and I wanted to do a dramatic shot there. And YouTube, I don't think at least I don't think you're able to like move where those beat drop would happen. And you're also kind of limited in that you can't edit the audio. And if your video is longer or shorter than the audio, then you can't extend the audio. Whereas if you're editing in a program like this and you downloaded a licensed music, you can actually sometimes extend the music so that it sounds seamless, but it's longer and it fits for video.
Darani តន់ទេ
តន់
ចា
Okay. Cool.
អ្នកមានសំណួរអីទេដោយសារតែយើងចិត្តចាប់ម៉ោងនៅក្នុងថ្ងៃទី1នេះហើយបើសិនជាមានសំណួរអាចលើកដៃសួរបានយើងមានពេល10នាទីទៀតដើម្បីបញ្ចប់វគ្គប្រដាល់ថ្ងៃទី1
Yeah, so if you guys don't have any other questions, I was just going to end it here today. And then tomorrow I would go over the Adobe Rush program. And as I'm not sure if, yeah, Elizabeth, did you raise your hand for something?
I did, yeah. I guess I was kind of wondering, when you're placing timelines, you kind of seem to have an idea already of how many videos and audios you want to have. Is that something you kind of like storyboard out ahead of time in your workflow, or?
So it's pretty standard, like for me, because I do all my videos are based on interviews, B-rolls, and then, you know, if I need to add any graphics, that's usually like a 3 audio video track. You can also add in tracks if you want to. Because this is kind of like a new this program I don't use a lot as much, but you can just did I just share the wrong one? Sorry, let me go back. Yeah, so I usually start with just a few tracks, and then if I ended up like, let's say I added more than just graphics and I added a whole bunch of other I needed to stack layers of graphics on top of each other. All you have to do is just right click and add another track. So you can just, you know, add another track. But the standard for me is usually like 3 because I do interviews, I do B-rolls, and then if the interviewee talks about you know, like maps or, you know, maps, or wants to highlight certain location, and I might overlay that over another B-roll, for example. So for example, in this example, if she's talking and then I have this B-roll, and then maybe they want to show a map or like a photo. This is the photo, a photo of like the fish species that they discovered here, for example. So that's when I would just use like another layer, basically.
Okay.
Yeah. But usually I start with 3, and same thing with audio too. I start with 3, thinking that I'm gonna use a music track, an audio track, and a sound effects track.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think 3 is a good starting point for the audio tracks and the video tracks.
Great.
Have any other questions? And I guess Sila and somebody, I guess, and I guess let me just put this out to everybody, is I actually am feeling pretty good. If you guys have more time, we can try to finish this training today. Unless you have other obligations, then let's do it then tomorrow. Let's finish it tomorrow. So let me get some feedback.
With the participant?
Yeah, with the participants. Like if the participants have more time, I think it could stay for, I probably only need like another hour to finish the Adobe one, because we already kind of went over how to do cuts, and those cuts you can do in Adobe Rush as well. But I don't want to take up anybody's time, since we already said we're only here for like 2 hours.
Yeah. ទាំងអស់គ្នាមិនដែរតាមពិតទៅយើងត្រូវដល់ម៉ោងចប់ហើយដោយសារតែនិយាយគ្នាតាំងពីដើមថាធ្វើតែ2ម៉ោងទេហើយបើនៅសល់យើងនឹងធ្វើថ្ងៃស្អែកទៀតប៉ុន្តែវានៅ Adobe Rush តែមួយទេបើសិនជាអ្នកទាំងអស់គ្នាចាប់អារម្មណ៍យើងនឹងធ្វើប្រហែលឲ្យចប់ថ្ងៃនេះតែបើអត់មានពេលទេយើងនឹងបន្តថ្ងៃស្អែកអាចឆ្លើយម្នាក់បន្តិចមក
Okay.
Okay, looks like
they go to work after that.
Yeah, okay. No worries. That sounds good. Okay, so then let's just stop for here. If anybody needs to leave now, please help us by filling out the post-training assessment so we can try to get you guys, you know, more training to what you guys need. Hopefully, like example, you know, if you want like a more advanced video editing training, we can also try to create something like that. So please try to take the assessment before you go, and then if you need to leave right now to go work, I'll see you guys tomorrow at the same time, and then we'll go over Adobe Rush. We'll take a little bit more time as needed. We'll also go over any questions you guys have about DaVinci Resolve as you're, you know, working on it or playing around with it today. If you come up with any questions, feel free to send it to me, and then tomorrow morning I'll look at the questions, or maybe send it to Sila, and Sila, maybe you can forward it to me, or like maybe make a list make a list of the questions, and then you can send it to me and I'll try to answer it tomorrow morning. But I'll see you guys all tomorrow
at 8 o'clock.
At 8 a.m. for you guys. I keep saying 6 o'clock, but it's 6 o'clock for me, 8 a.m. for you guys.
Okay.
And I think that's all. Yeah, that's all for today. Please send questions. I'm happy to answer questions that anything that I didn't cover today. Send the questions, and I'll make sure to answer it tomorrow before we get into Adobe Rush.
Okay. Thank you. Just okay.
ចាដោយសារតែគ្នាយើងមួយចំនួនត្រូវទៅចូលធ្វើការវិញយើងអត់អាចបន្តបានទៀតទេអញ្ចឹងយើងនឹងចាប់ផ្ដើមAdobe Rush នៅថ្ងៃស្អែកម៉ោងដដែលម៉ោង 8 ព្រឹកដដែលណារយៈពេលប្រហែលជាវាអត់ដាច់ដល់2ម៉ោងទេតែបើសិនជាមានសំណួរមានអីយើងទៅចែកគ្នាស៊ីជម្រៅនៅថ្ងៃស្អែកហើយ ដូចថ្ងៃហ្នឹងអញ្ចឹងសិនជាមានសំណួរអាចកត់ទុកហើយផ្ញើឲ្យបងសាលាឬក៏ស្អែកលើកមកនិយាយនៅក្នុង training ក៏បានដែរហើយមួយទៀតបងសាលាគាត់បានផុស link Google Doc និយាយពី assessment អញ្ចឹងអាចជួយទៅឆ្លើយសំណួរផងថា training ថ្ងៃទី1ហ្នឹងវាមិនដែរអាចជួយណែនាំពួកខ្ញុំបន្ថែមទៀតថាខ្វះចន្លោះអីអញ្ចឹងណាហើយឆ្លើយសំណួរទៅនឹងសំណួររបស់វណ្ណដានិយាយពី training នៅខែ11ពួកយើងនឹងចែកចាយព័ត៌មានបន្ថែមបណ្ដាខែ11និយាយពីវីដេអូ storytelling វាធ្វើឡើងក្នុងរយៈពេល2ថ្ងៃដូចគ្នាយើងនឹងចែកចាយនៅក្នុងpage Bandar Adobe Mekong Facebook page ហ្នឹងអញ្ចឹងចាំតាមដានមើលទាំងអស់គ្នាទៅហើយនិយាយ
ខ្ញុំចង់ចូលរួមតិចតាក់ទងជាមួយនឹងវីដេអូ storytelling ហ្នឹងខ្ញុំអត់ដឹងថាអ្នកដែលចូលរួមថ្ងៃហ្នឹងទាំងអស់គ្នាហ្នឹងបាន register ចូលរួមនៅក្នុងវគ្គ photo storytelling ហើយទទួលបាន6វីដេអូ clip ហើយឬនៅអាចជួយឲ្យសារខ្ញុំបន្តិចលើកដៃឬក៏អីឬក៏អ្នកណាអត់ទាន់បាន register ពួកខ្ញុំនឹងផ្ញើព័ត៌មានជូន
អញ្ចឹងចេះវិញនៅក្នុងក្រុមនេះមានអ្នកគេ register ហើយនៅអូខេ
សម្រាប់ខ្ញុំវិញនៅបងដូចជាអត់ទាន់ឃើញ form ហ្នឹងដែរ
អត់ទាន់ឃើញទេ
ហ្នឹងហើយខ្ញុំឃើញតែរៀន training ហ្នឹងហើយខ្ញុំបានឆែកតែតាម training ផ្សេងដែរ
អូខេអញ្ចឹងចាប់ដោយសារតារៀងនេះបន្តិចដោយសារតា photo video storytelling ហ្នឹងជាមួយនឹង Stephen ហ្នឹងយើងបាន call for register តាំងពីខែ9ប៉ុន្តែបើ manage ចាប់អារម្មណ៍ចង់រៀនវគ្គហ្នឹងអញ្ចឹងពួកខ្ញុំនឹងផ្ញើព័ត៌មានជូន manage បន្ថែមទៀតហើយ manage ត្រូវ watch video clip ទាំង6របស់ Stephen ហើយយើងនឹងមាន training workshop នៅក្នុងខែ11ពួកខ្ញុំនឹងផ្ញើ email ជូនអ្នកដែលបានចុះឈ្មោះទាំងអស់គ្នា
អូខេបងហ្នឹងហើយបងអរគុណច្រើន
ចានៅក្នុងខែ11ពួកខ្ញុំនឹងផ្ញើព័ត៌មានជូនអូខេ
ក៏អញ្ចឹងទៅបងអាចផ្ញើទៅអ្នកដែលគាត់ចូល workshop ថ្ងៃហ្នឹងទៅគាត់អាច miss registration អញ្ចឹងណាដូចវណ្ណដាអញ្ចឹងគាត់ដឹងរឿងហ្នឹងទេអញ្ចឹងយើងផ្ញើ link ឲ្យគាត់ register ម្ដងទៀតទៅបើមិនជាគាត់ចាប់អារម្មណ៍ហើយដូចអ៊ុយលីមនេះគាត់បានវីដេអូ clip ហ្នឹងហើយអញ្ចឹងបានន័យថាកាលពីខែ9គាត់បានចុះឈ្មោះណា
ចាអ្នកដែលបានចុះឈ្មោះហើយបានវីដេអូ clip ហ្នឹងហើយសូមមេត្តាមើលទាំង6វីដេអូបានមាន idea នៅក្នុងការជជែកជាមួយនឹង Stephen នៅក្នុង workshop ទី1ដោយសារតែ workshop របស់ training workshop របស់ Stephen ហ្នឹងគាត់ធ្វើដាច់ចេញពីគ្នាតែម្ដងបានថាមួយថ្ងៃសម្រាប់workshop ទី1ហើយបន្ទាប់មកយើងទៅធ្វើ assignment របស់យើងហ្នឹងហើយត្រឡប់មកវិញទៅជែកជាមួយគាត់ថាយើងបាន result អីខ្លះហើយគាត់នឹងឲ្យ feedback ទៅលើអ្វីដែលយើងបានធ្វើហ្នឹងដោយសារតែ D គាត់ត្រូវមិត្តភាពនៅក្នុងពេលឆាប់អញ្ចឹងហើយបានជាគាត់ចាប់ផ្ដើម training របស់គាត់ហ្នឹងមុនពេល training workshop របស់ Stephen editing មុនពេលដែលយើងចាប់ផ្ដើមទៅចែកគ្នាពី planning រឿងថតវីដេអូអញ្ចឹងពួកខ្ញុំនឹងផ្ញើ email ជូនទៅអ្នកចូលរួមនៅក្នុងថ្ងៃនេះទាំងអស់គ្នាតាក់ទងជាមួយនឹងវីដេអូ storytelling អរគុណច្រើន
ហើយ recording ពួកយើងនឹងផ្ញើជូននៅថ្ងៃបន្ទាប់ពេលដែលយើង training ចប់ជាមួយ slide presentation ណាអញ្ចឹងចាំទទួល email អញ្ចឹងស្អែកជួបគ្នាទាំងអស់គ្នា see you guys tomorrow
after tomorrow we'll start the PowerPoint slide as well. Sila and somebody, do you guys want to, or and Putali, do you guys want to stay for a second?
Yes.
អញ្
ចឹងអរគុណច្រើនចាអរគុណច្រើនទាំងអស់គ្នា